Well, Martin Crowe was the one who felt that there should be a product that could be contained within a 2.5 hour time period, that cricket needed to be able to be consumed by the masses in a shorter period than what ODI cricket, which is a 7.5 hour day. So Martin came up with a concept called Cricket Max. This was about in the mid-1990s.
Yes, I think there were a couple of matches that was played when he went.
Yeah, I mean, well, I played Cricket Max back domestically in New Zealand. It was sort of like what is 2020 nowadays. But for whatever reason, Cricket Max didn't take off. I think perhaps it wasn't quite cricket. 2020 cricket is just cricket,
absolutely,
right? It's exactly the same. You score runs the same, bowlers bowl the same. All the rules are the same, pretty much. Whereas Cricket Max had some slight variations which Martin put in because he thought it would make it more interesting. He had a thing called a max zone, which was behind the bowler, whereas if you hit the ball into the max zone, you scored double points.
Okay.
So a 4 would become 8 and a 6 would become 12 if you could hit it sort of, if you like, between the goalposts at the end of the game. And that was Martin's way of trying to make cricketers hit straight.
That's right.
And
so there's more action in that.
Yeah, and he did things like, I think he outlawed leg buys, and he had maybe 4 stumps instead of 3. And I think people just sort of thought, well, this is not quite cricket. It's a little bit different. And although it did well in New Zealand, it really needed other leading countries to pick it up and run with it. The big countries like perhaps England or India or Australia. And for whatever reason, 2020 cricket started up, and the English were, I think, the first ones to play it at a competitive level, and that quickly snowballed. I think South Africa took it on quite quickly on, and you know, it's a great form. I think it's the ideal way for cricket to grow globally. I think countries like the United States, I think other countries that don't have a heritage in cricket, 2020 is almost certainly the vehicle that can help grow the game and help people become aware of, I guess, what a great game cricket is.
Have you ever considered that, I mean, given the situation, okay, it's very difficult to hold cricket series in countries like India, Australia, England, because they have their programs set and things like that. But say countries like New Zealand and say Sri Lanka, and since West Indies is close to us, if there is a tri-series of that nature in America, what happens here is there is a financial gain for every single board because of the huge cricket following in America, which are just starved. They're starved of international cricket.
Yeah.
So how quickly you think we, as cricket enthusiasts, can expect a series of that kind?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think it's sooner rather than later. I think there are a number of factors that need to be taken into consideration. I think there is a willingness on behalf of the cricket boards to make it happen. I think what you need to see as well is a willingness from the broadcast partners. At the moment, they selectively value series involving, say, those big 4 countries, so India, England, South Africa and Australia. And so if you didn't have those and you tried to have a tri-series, say, between Sri Lanka, West Indies and New Zealand, one of the issues you have is that each of those independent home markets, so the West Indian market or the Sri Lankan market or the New Zealand market, none of them are large enough to generate huge amounts of revenue out of selling the rights.
So you definitely need one of these 4 big boards.
Well, no, or you would need a local US broadcaster to say, we want to make cricket work in this country, so we will help fund whether it's production costs or making this sort of series happen. Because one thing is that, you know, I think Sri Lanka, West Indies and New Zealand, we don't necessarily want to profiteer out of growing cricket in the United States, but we don't want to lose money either, right? So when we come here, there's got to be a way to be able to cover those costs, and that normally is out of the fee that you can get out of the broadcast rights for those sorts of series. So if there was a local US broadcaster who really believed in cricket, who wanted to get in at the ground level and help build it up, then I think developing a close partnership with the United States cricket would be the way to go. And so I guess that's what we're interested in understanding, is whether any of the big sports broadcasters within the United States have an interest in trying to grow cricket. We believe it's a product that could have huge potential in this country, but it does need it needs a degree of faith in terms of the long-term potential to make it happen.
How is the scenario with regards to the ICL dispute? Shane Bond and other players, they played in the ICL. Has that been sorted out? And how did the whole thing end? I
Well,
know
it
was
sort of ended with a bit of a whimper, really. I mean, Shane's now back playing for New Zealand.
I think you were at the helm. You had just taken over as a CEO at that time.
Absolutely. I mean, it was a very distressing situation because you had these players going and playing in an unsanctioned competition. There were some pretty clear rules in terms of the ICC, which meant that those players couldn't carry on playing international cricket. We were probably hardest hit out of any of the boards because we don't have the depth of resource to lose 4 or 5 of our best players, which is what we did at the time. We lost a few players who had recently retired, Chris Cairns, Nathan Astle, but we also lost a few current players like Craig McMillan, Shane Bond, Andre Adams, Lou Vincent, Hamish Marshall. They all went. Darryl Tuffy was another. And so we were left in a pretty difficult position. We had to manage without them, and we did okay. We still managed to punch above our weight, but I'm glad that it's all over now. It seems like the ICL has disappeared. Just about all the players that I'm aware of have severed their contracts.
They're back in,
and they're now back playing traditional establishment cricket, which is good for the game. And I think now that the IPL is well established within India, the chances of a rebel alternative tournament, I think, is much less.
Much less. Well, there is this exciting. There's a lot of excitement here in the US with our under-19 team qualifying for the World Cup to be happening in New Zealand. And can you give us an insight as to what kind of preparations are going on and how because a lot of players, I just spoke to all those kids who are just involved in that, and they're pretty excited to go to New Zealand.
So they should be. It's a huge tournament now.
Could you give us a kind of insight into what they can expect? And
well, I mean, they're going to arrive in New Zealand probably around late December or early January. That's our prime cricketing months of January and February. So the United States team is based in a beautiful city called Queenstown. It's one of our alpine resorts, but in summertime, which January is, has got a beautiful cricketing facility. They're in a very tough group. They're in a group with Australia and South Africa and Ireland, who I don't think you should underestimate. But they play in that group. They play a round robin, so they'll have some great opportunity to play against some of the world's finest young cricketers. And then either they will finish in the top 2 in their group and move on to the finals series, which is being played in Christchurch, which is where New Zealand cricket is based, or they move into the plate section, which is being played in a place called Napier, which again is a place where we play a lot of international cricket, beautiful part of the country. So they're going to be there for the best part of a month. I'm sure they'll learn a lot.
What kind of wickets they can expect from there?
Well, they'll be flat.
You think?
Yes.
And during that time, I think the weather is pretty.
Weather's fine. I mean, it's not dissimilar to what we've got here. It'll be a temperature in the early to mid 20s degrees centigrade. The wickets will be produced for high-scoring one-day cricket. So I would be surprised if the scores didn't go, 250 plus for a 50-over game. We're really looking forward to it. We've had to host this tournament at fairly late notice. Kenya had to pull out as the hosting venue about 6 months ago, so we've had to move into sort of last-minute mode. But we're very confident of being able to stage a really successful tournament. It's Under-19 World Cup has really grown a lot in the last decade.
That's
I think the event 2 years ago where India won in Malaysia, I think showed what an important tournament it is. Our own New Zealand's Tim Southey was the player of the tournament. He's gone on to become a successful international cricketer, and it's often the place where the stars of the future are seen.
It's a very good platform for those kids to really launch on to the next level.
Yeah, and I think it's where they can see how good the world's best really are and set the benchmark.
So we are. New Zealand is a great country. These boys are really excited to go. I just had a quick word with them this morning, and including the coach. And
they'll have a great taste of it because they, I believe, their preparation may be taking place in our largest city called Auckland. The tournament then is officially launched in a place called Christchurch, and then they move to play their pool games in Queenstown, and then they'll either come back to Christchurch or go on to Napier in the Hawke's Bay. So they'll have a great chance to see the country as well as play a lot of good cricket.
Excellent. So what's your other plans during your stay here? What else?
It's a fairly brief stay. I mean, we, being based in New Zealand, we're fairly used to long haul travel. So making it here to the United States is really not as arduous a trip as
Oh,
you
yeah.
might imagine.
You bet.
We do get used to it. So no, I'm here just to meet with the board, to see the facilities. I've been very impressed with what I've seen, and
Great.
hopefully take some ideas home.
Wonderful. It has been a pleasure having you with us, and we hope you will visit us many more times and enjoy. And really, we hope there will be a time when they will see you and your team more often to come and play in this magnificent venue.
Yep, I'm greatly looking forward to it.
Thanks, Justin.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
All
Wonderful
right.
talking to you.
Thanks very much.